Take It Outside, Educating for the Environment lays the important groundwork with research and personal testimony to support outside education.
Good job on your Earth Day presentation, Logan.
Yeah, you too.
Prince Harweda was a very selfish and disagreeable child, so much so that by the time he was 5, nobody loved him. His grieving parents, the king and queen, knew that he would never become the great leader that the kingdom needed. They called for his fairy godmother, who pledged to take on the child, but his parents must promise not to interfere. The king and queen agreed and begged that she cure their selfish son. "We'll see about that," said the godmother. "Humph, expecting to be a king someday and not caring for anybody but himself, a fine king he'll make." The godmother took the boy with the condition that she will return him in 1 month, and if he is not cured, she will try 2 months. She took the prince into the forest where there was a beautiful pink palace. "This is your home," said the godmother. "In it you will find everything you need, and you can do just as you choose with your time." The prince was pleased, as there was nothing more he liked to do than what he pleased. Once inside, the iron door to this enchanted house shut behind him. In the center of the room was a large bird cage with a beautiful bird that sang a welcome tune. The prince didn't care for birds and paid no mind to it. He also found jars of perfume. This pleased him because now he needn't go outdoors into the garden for flowers. Sparkling water came from a fountain, and there was an endless bowl of fruit. The greedy prince ate until he could eat no more, and then he slept. When he awoke, he noticed large windows and large mirrors on the wall. He rarely looked out the windows, instead looking only at himself in the mirror. He spent hours looking at himself and didn't even notice that the mirrors were getting larger and the windows were getting smaller. So small, in fact, that they hardly gave enough light to see himself. Finally, one morning, the prince awoke in total darkness. This excerpt from The Magic Prison by Elizabeth Harrison exemplifies why we need to take it outside and educate for the environment. Just like the prince, we live in darkness. Environmental education is covered one time a year, April 22nd, Earth Day. Every student knows that, but what about the rest of the year? During the last century, the United States has created and made mandatory education for children. This has changed the scope of how we learn immensely. Educating children is so important, but during the process of public education, we have removed children from the outdoors and placed them indoors, creating very little connection between them and the environment. It is simply not possible to cover everything that a teacher needs to cover in the year, in addition to environmental education. So I propose that we take it outside. Learning can happen anywhere. Research shows that classroom activities have very little effect on emotional connections to the environment, and supporters of outdoor education say that taking the learning outside of the classroom is the key to making children aware and apathetic to their role in the environment. C. Hoagland, author of The Land Inside Coyote, once wrote about the relationship between art, imagination, and social change. He points out that children cannot be taught to feel deeply. but they can be taught to look and listen in such a way that the imaginative emotion follows. Julia Lane says, "It is widely recognized in the literature that environmental information, that is, facts, statistics, and figures, does not in itself shift environmental attitudes and behaviors." Much like the young prince in our story, we've become very selfish. Children in classrooms, adults in offices, walked away from the environment. This is the problem that is causing the darkness that is seen towards environmental education. There are two spiritual dangers for those of us who do not own a farm, and Aldo Leopold documents these perils in a Sand County Almanac during the month of February, which he titles Good Oak. Leopold points out that the first danger is the assumption that food comes from the grocery store, and the second, that heat comes from the furnace. Scientists and ecologists are always on a mission to find out what went wrong. Where did we fail in educating for the environment? I think we need to stop looking at what went wrong and begin looking at what went right. We need to begin by looking at what drives people to make positive decisions for the environment. Those decisions come from being a part of it, a community. Classroom activities are severely limited when it comes to environmental education. Research shows that there is a huge connection between being in the outdoors and caring about the outdoors. That even it is a key predictor for pro-environmental behavior and attitudes. You can learn knowledge in the classroom, but if you really want to affect our environment, you need to put children back into the environment.
Swift Things Are Beautiful by Elizabeth Coatsworth. Swift things are beautiful, swallows and deer, and lightning that falls bright-veined and clear, rivers and meteors, wind in the wheat, the strong withered horse, the runner's sure feet. And slow things are beautiful, the closing of day, the pause of the wave that curves downward to spray, the ember that crumbles, the opening flower, and the ox that moves on in the quiet of power.
Emily Dickinson. A narrow fellow in the grass. A narrow fellow in the grass occasionally rides. You may have met him, did you not? His notice sudden is. The grass divides as with a comb, a spotted shaft is seen, and then it closes at your feet and opens further on. He likes a boggy acre, a floor too cool for corn. Yet when a child, and barefoot, I more than once at morn have passed, I thought, a whiplash, a braiding in the sun, when, stooping to secure it, it wrinkled and was gone. Several of nature's people I know, and they know me. I feel for them a transport of cordiality, but never met this fellow, attended or alone, without a tighter breathing and zero at the bone.
Back at that pink palace that had become young Harwita's prison, something was different. This environment that he was in had changed him. He now felt empathy towards the bird that was caged in the center of the room, sharing his water, his food, letting him out of the cage, and eventually freeing him. Prince Harweda was free also. He returned to his kingdom and was a great, great king. Our young prince, he wouldn't have learned empathy. He would not have learned to be a great king unless his environment had changed. So we need to take our children out of our classrooms and put them outdoors where they can learn to love and appreciate everything around them. They'll have an emotional connection to their environment and they will choose to take care of it. We cannot look at outdoor education without looking at the facts. In their article about outdoor adventure education, Lauren Galen de Amato and Marion Krasny wrote that the participants found the wilderness awe-inspiring and resulted in an increased respect and admiration for nature. They said, similar to the feelings of connectedness with nature, the feelings of awe motivated students to want to preserve the nature that had provided such a profound experience. After explaining that he was not environmentally minded, Bob added that because he had been out in nature like this, just seeing how incredible it is, he was interested in encouraging businesses to be conscious of their impact. There is no denying that we do catastrophic damage to our environment. I live in southeast Kansas and these strip mines are very commonplace here. But the Reclamation Act of 1977 said that when we take these valuable fossil fuels out of our land, we cannot leave these large these pits that scar our earth. We must reclaim the land and make it usable. Those scars fade. They turn into something beautiful once reclaimed. Southeast Kansas is dotted with these beautiful wildlife areas that are a sanctuary for fish and game of all sizes. Jean Craighead George wrote a book called One Day in the Prairie. It follows Henry Rush, who's spending a day in the Prairie Wildlife Refuge. He's determined to photograph a prairie dog doing a backflip. He's so focused on this goal that he fails to recognize all of the warning signs of an incoming tornado. We are so much like Henry, focused on one single goal, education, and the means to get it is sacrificing our environment. We're missing the warning signs. Take it outside. Education for the environment takes place outside of a traditional classroom. Research and testimony back this up. Students who are educated outside of a traditional classroom have a more in-depth and indebted relationship with the environment. This outdoor approach to education will ensure that children have a relationship with the environment for years to come. Geographically speaking, this can be done anywhere that there are outdoor spaces.